shortly. In the meantime,
Yep.
Hugh, I was noodling around on the internet yesterday, and I saw that you and I have something in common. I saw a clip where you had one of the head guys over at Politico, and you said, look, your blog has completely become a liberal website. On this program, I have called it a lefty website for a while. What changed your mind about it?
Politico went originally for the center, and great guys like Mike Allen, whom I'm sure you know, and he's a really wonderful political reporter. But since that time, as they've expanded, they have lurched to the left, more to the left, more to the left, with guys like John Allen, who worked for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's a hardcore lefty Democrat. They just loaded up on lefties, and you can tell in their coverage, in their headlines, and in their alliance with NBC, which is the hard left network, that Politico kind of lost its way. When I wrote that, all of a sudden people like Fred Barnes and you and a bunch of other of my friends back in D.C. began to say, you know, that's right. We've noticed the same thing. And it's the Beltway Drift, Steve. It's pretty hard not to go left inside of Washington, D.C., because that's just the culture of the place. But I'm sad to see Politico go that way, and they've got to hurry back to the center or they're going to lose that opportunity they had to really deal out good political news. Now, I think the new product that's coming out from your boss, Murdoch, today is going to be interesting to see whether or not they hold the center. I think they will, and as a result, Politico is going to take another big hit. Yeah,
they're going to announce the Daily, I think, at 11 o'clock this morning here in New York. Here is a little snippet that I heard yesterday where you were talking to the editor at Politico who was defending their coverage as being fair and balanced. Listen to this.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of bombast in the early reaction to the Arizona tragedy, and I think some of that bombast was quite irresponsible.
Where in Politico was that said? Because that's what conservatives said. There isn't anything I can find on your website that made that argument. In fact, your conservative columnist did exactly what the most radical voices did and accused conservatives of spreading hate speech without naming names in what was a group attack. And I think, are you guys tone deaf as to how this strikes conservatives, that you really have started to almost routinely flog them?
I really did take vigorous exception to your column. It was that you were suggesting some kind of ideological agenda.
Oh, I think it's there, John.
And I'm with you, Hugh. You know, the interesting thing about Politico, the head guy there is a fellow by the name of Fred Ryan. He's the CEO. He is also, I think he's the chairman of the board of trustees for the Ronald Reagan Foundation. And as you mentioned a moment ago, Politico is going to sponsor the first Republican presidential debate, and Politico's partner is NBC. Do you think, Hugh, that the people at the Reagan Library know how the people at MSNBC talk about Republicans?
Well, I'm sure they do. Fred is a friend. He's an old and dear friend, and he was a great stalwart of President Reagan. I love the Reagan Library. I gave a speech, the Federalist Society keynote there on Saturday. And so I hope they host the first Republican debate. I just don't want Politico, and I especially don't want NBC to be moderating that debate and deciding what Republican candidates ought to be talking about. I'll tell you, Steve, the thing that's amazing, Chris Matthews nightly has his head spin around in a circle about Michelle Bachmann. Michelle Bachmann is almost certainly going to be on the stage. How in the world is NBC, I don't care if it's Williams or if it's Chris Matthews or if it's Rachel Maddow, how in the world do they expect Republicans to take them seriously when they've become a radical network? And so I hope that Republicans refuse to go to this demand, this diktat that came out of NBC on May the 2nd. I hope they boycott it. I asked John Thune on my radio show last week, and Senator Thune said, you know, they ought to be able to find someone a little bit more objective to moderate a Republican debate. So I'm hoping that they do and that Republicans just stay away on May 2nd.
Well, we'll stand by to find out what happens. Hugh Hewitt joining us today from the Los